This is not out of the norm for him. I'm sure he's beaten Sneak and Show before. He's going to have to do it again, and Brendan's going to be the opposition here, and he's going to start off here with a Brainstorm.
Yep. Yeah, to have played Infect for as long as Tom Ross has, you're going to have to have run into Sneak and Show a couple of times. So certainly this is a matchup where Tom's going to know his way around. Brenden, likewise, Tom, I don't think has played anything but Infect in Legacy for close to a year.
I was going to say, yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, so this, before we even shuffle up and draw 7, I think Brenden knows exactly what he's up against, and has to make his mulligans and his keeps with that in mind.
And I think in this matchup, you have to aggressively mulligan if you're either player.
Yeah.
Because there's really no time to mess around here. Bobbing and weaving, no really stuff like that. You have to get your opponent dead as fast as possible.
For sure. We caught a glimpse of a hand there from Brenden. We see a sneak attack, but no monster, I don't think. Although we do see 2 copies of Force of Will.
Okay, those are important.
Yeah. So I think that you have the choice of you can mulligan aggressively to an attempt to combo, mulligan to a big show and tell hand, or I think you can. I think you're happy to keep a way to stop the first couple of Infect threats from Tom. The hands that you can't keep are the kind of the double Brainstorm Ponder hands.
Yeah, because you don't really have a lot of enough time to do that. Now that's the kind of hand that he actually has kept here, but he does have Force Wills to go along with it, so that makes it okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. This is in those hands in a lot of matchups. Those are your best hands, the patient hands. But yeah, in this case, Brendan's got to get something done. Now, Force of Will is a pretty safe card to lean on if Tom Ross is going to say be leading with Listener Elves. Blighted Agents, things of that nature. It is an incredibly awkward situation if you keep double Force of Will and then Tom Ross just starts Inkmoth Nexusing you.
Very, very bad news.
Yeah.
The card that I always find interesting in this deck is Noble Hierarch. It almost feels like it's out of place, but that's not actually the case. The acceleration provides is pretty nice, and of course, Exalted is as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically a Birds of Paradise with a Giant Growth stapled onto it over the course of a game.
It's actually pretty nice. We see like Ataxian Probe. Going to give Tom some info. Double Force of Will. There's a Sneak Attack. There's Lotus Petal. And there's a double land, I guess we should call it, in City of Traders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we could see, a turn 3 Sneak Attack and put a guy into play.
Yep. Brenden, of course, would have to find that guy on top. He did just cast a Ponder, so if it was in the top 3, he'll be fetching it. If it was not in the top 3, he'll be cracking that Misty and taking a fresh peek.
What there is the potential for Tom to have no permanence next turn due to maybe a top deck Emrakul. We'll see if he's able to find one here. Ross needs to also find something. He needs to get an Infect guy going. He does have an Inkmoth Nexus, but I think ideally he'd actually find one of the creatures as he's going to cast a Brainstorm here. He did pick up a Berserk and a Ponder, among other things. He's going to have to put 2 cards back, but the other card he has in his hand right now is Invigorate, so he has the 1-2 punch.
Yes. If a creature with Infect connects, it actually ends the game. Assuming, of course, those cards resolve, which we do know about Force of Will in Brendan's hand. So yeah, has to make the choice here. Does he want to lay his Inkmoth Nexus, potentially exposing it to an Emrakul off the top? He could also play any land and then sit on that crop rotation, which kind of does the same thing.
Yeah, the big question now is for his crop rotation, what are his bullets? Does he have a Karakas? Because that would be a nice main deck one to have, but I'd be surprised if he's starting one of those.
Yeah, he does not have a Karakas. It is in his sideboard, but in the main deck he has 1 Pendlehaven, 1 Dryad Arbor, 1 Wasteland, and then of course the 4 Inkmoth Nexus. So yeah.
Brenden drew the guy. He drew a Gristlebrand. Now, that's not Emrakul.
No.
But it's still good.
Yes. Gristlebrand is a virtual 14. So, assuming Brenden is comfortable pulling the trigger here, which I don't see why it wouldn't be. Play Sneak Attack, puts Gristlebrand into play, draws 14. If he finds he needs to find another Lotus Petal, so a 3-outer there, and then one of the 4 Emrakuls to actually finish things off.
Sure.
Now, normally making a play like that is pretty risky because you're 14ing yourself.
Sure.
You'd be going to 5. Exposing yourself to some beatdowns. Against the Infect deck, that is normally not so big a problem because you're kind of playing with a different life total anyway.
Yep.
Now, with this particular draw, Noble Hierarch suddenly starts to look really scary.
Indeed it does. This is pretty scary too. Here is Gristlebrand. And Tom doesn't even fight back, which I also find to be kind of interesting. He does have Forceful. He may not have a blue card in his hand, but he decides that, you know what, this is all fine with me. I have no interest in battling you over this. And so now Brendan's going to draw a bunch of cards, and that allows him to find Lotus Petal plus a big guy.
Yes, I did see the Emrakul. So that part of the equation is handled in duplicate, actually, because there are 2 of them. But did not find the Lotus Petal that he needs. Can pull the trigger again, take 7 more peaks. Make that 8 more peaks.
Yeah. There's a probe.
All right, so Tom has already probed Brenden, but Brenden has not probed Tom yet this game, so all will be revealed shortly.
This card is busted. There's the grip.
Yeah, Force Ponder, Berserk, double Invigorate, or sorry, Invigorate crop rotation there.
So what this is from Tom is basically saying I'm not going to use Force of Will as like a defensive measure. I'm going to use it proactively when I try to kill you.
Yes.
But I don't think he's ever going to get the opportunity to do that.
Nope. Yeah, Brenden always had 2 Force of Wills in his hand. You can't draw 14 cards without finding some blue cards to go with them. So, unlikely that Tom Ross is going to be resolving any spells that Brenden cares about.
He would have to get very unlucky.
Yes, and actually, there it was. I just saw the Lotus Petal on that second activation. So Brenden has the win. Lotus Petal, Tom can fight over this if he chooses. I suspect he will choose, but, okay.
I think Tom just knows he's dead.
Yeah.
Honestly. Here's this, here's that. I could make a Taylor Swift joke about attacking for 22, but I'm better than that.
Yeah, we're over it.
Yeah. So Tom is going to sacrifice his permanents, pick up his graveyard here. He's going to take 22 points of damage. Yeah, so this one is over. Brenden Lutzi is going to win game number 1 here over Tom Ross. Sneak and Show up a game over. In fact, being on the play there may have been what mattered because he was just a turn quicker.
Yep. Yeah, as we said, this is just a matter of who kills the other guy faster. And it did actually sort of look that way. I feel like Tom on the play would have been attacking with Nexus and Berserking and Invigorating.
Yeah, it would have been very, very fast. It would have been a turn. It would have been a turn 3 attempt from Tom. We don't know if it would have been good, but it would have been an attempt on turn 3. Instead, Brenden was able to actually play Sneak Attack, activate on turn 3, put Gristle Brand in play, and get the job done. So there you go.
Yeah, no, of course, Brenden did actually. Yeah, he had those 2 Force of Wills in his hand from turn 1. Never needed to use any of them. So I guess realistically, the way it would have played out if Tom had run the play was he would have went for it, gotten Force of Will, and then died.
That's what it looks like. Sideboard time, you've got Tom's in front of you, so where do we begin?
Tom has access to 2 Blue Elemental Blast, 1 Caracas, there's a big one, 1 Bajuka Bog, 1 Piracy Charm, 1 Necropede, 1 Viridian Corruptor, 3 Nature's Claim, 2 Force of Will, 1 Fluster Swarm, 2 Submerge. So, that Caracas is going right in real quick. That's going to be a key card that you can fetch up with crop rotation. One has to assume once the 2 Force of Wills, that complements the 2 that are already in his main deck, so he's going to go up to 4 of those. And probably wants the rest of his interaction on the stack. So I think he probably wants the Fluster Swarm, and I think you're pretty happy with 2 Blue Elemental Blast here as well.
Ooh, 2 Blue Blast is really interesting. We don't see that card very much at all in this format. Really good against Sneak Attack for obvious reasons.
Yes.
The other side here, I'm looking at 3 Blood Moons, a Beseiju who shelters all, an Echoing Truth, a Graph Digger's Cage, 3 Pyroclasm, 2 Swan Song, a Shattering Spree, and then 3 copies of Through the Breach. Thoughts on Blood Moon here?
Well, yeah, Ingmoth Nexus, that's the go-to threat for Tom. That is, I think, the scariest threat because it is the one that you cannot counter, and it is the one that's free, basically. So, yeah, that's a pretty important card to fight over.
Plus the crop rotation package, and Tom doesn't have a lot of basics in his deck. He has a forest.
1 forest.
So I actually wouldn't be surprised to see Blood Moon be good. The question is, does Brenden know that? Because it's surprisingly good in this matchup.
Yeah, it doesn't really feel like it should be what the game's about. In fact, it's really not what the game's about. We're still racing fundamentally.
Yeah, I agree.
But Blood Moon has the opportunity to kind of buy you 7 turns.
Yep.
Or buy you really infinite turns, I guess, in that sense.
I like Echoing Truth. I like Beseiju, sort of. Like, it's
not
okay,
excited about it.
You know?
It's slow.
Okay.
It's very slow. Yeah, it comes into play tapped, so you can crop rotation and then untap and use it.
Okay.
But yeah, Tom really only has the Force of Wills and like 1 Fluster Storm after board.
I like Pyroclasm a lot. Kills all the creatures.
Sorry, it's 4 days as well in the main. So I
that's
guess
a lot of those.
Yeah.
And then Swan Song is kind of interesting to me because it doesn't stop the creatures at all, but it can stop a timely Invigorate or win a counterspell war, and the 2/2 that you're giving your opponent generally doesn't matter. So I wouldn't be surprised to see those come in. Of course, that means that Brenden has to sideboard a lot of cards out, but I believe he can make room for these things.
Possibly. Yeah, there's not a ton of wiggle room actually in a Sneak and Show deck.
Jace is pretty bad.
Yeah, you're not excited about Jace. Brenden only has 2 of those. But other than that, I mean, we're talking 1 drops, ponders, spell pierces, things like that. This is a very clean and efficient list.
It is very clean.
You're looking at a full-blown 4 spell pierce, 4 ponder, 3 Cataxian probe. So yeah, honestly, the 2 Jaces. Like, what do you want to cut other than 2 Jace out of this list?
I would cut some number of spell pierces because I'm not in love with that card, and I don't feel like you have to have Cataxian probe. I feel like Cataxian probe is a luxury, but you can sideboard it out for more high impact cards because your sideboard cards are just more high impact.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so The judgment call then becomes like, is Blood Moon more high impact? Is it actually better than just a card that cycles?
Yeah. And maybe you only want Blood Moon when you're on the play. When you can kind of just go turn 1 Blood Moon, you lose.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that you really do not want to be Blood Mooning after your opponent plays Noble Hierarch.
Yeah, it's not good at all.
Yeah, that feels bad. This is not a matchup, I think, where Brenden needs Through the Breach, so I don't see much appeal to that. So really, it's just just a question of, like, Blood Moon is kind of up in the air. I think we for sure want Echoing Truth. And how do you feel about Pyroclasm?
I like it a lot.
Okay.
I think it's just worth it. Like, I know that Tom, if you played against Sneak and Show at all, you know that they have Pyroclasm in their sideboard. Sometimes that matters in the matchup due to the deck you're playing. Sometimes it doesn't. But Pyroclasm has really become the industry standard at this point in varying numbers. You know, Todd has played as many as 4 of those when he plays Sneak and Show. Brenden only has 3 of them, but I still like him in this matchup nonetheless. It's a card you actually have to answer. You know, there are draws with Inkmoth Nexus and Pendelhaven where it's not great, but I think by and large the card is pretty good.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, certainly there are draws that it kind of blows out. If you go like turn 1 Noble Hierarch into like Glistener Elf Blighted Agent, like that's an easy 3-for-1. Yeah. But there are a lot of kind of efficient ways for Tom to get around that. Of course, you mentioned Pendelhaven. You can invigorate it for free. It's just like a free answer, but although you're not excited about that because you're losing an invigorate when you do that.
Yeah, they're using invigorate defensively. You love that.
Yes. You forcing the infect player to use pump spells on your turn is a pretty big deal.
So Tom is going to keep. He's going to sacrifice that Verdant Catacombs, go get himself a tropical island. Don't know if you caught a good look at Brendan's hand, but he does have Blood Moon over there.
Okay. And the question is it going to be effective here?
Yep, that's the big one.
Yeah.
This is a Glistener Elf to start things off, so immediately Brenden is under the gun. Here's an Ancient Tomb.
Oh, and there's the Lotus Petal,
Yeah,
so
he's
turn 1 Blood Moon.
He's going for it. And he has counter backup too, wow.
Yeah.
So here's Blood Moon.
Yeah. Here's the fun interaction. Now that Blood Moon's in play, that tropical island no longer a forest, which means Invigorate no longer has any text. Right?
Really?
Yeah, I'm almost positive that you need a forest in play in order to use the alternate cost on Invigorate.
We got to take a look at it. We got to go to the tape.
Yes.
You are a smart human.
If you control a forest.
You are a very smart human. Look at you. I always thought Invigorate was just they gain 4, you deal 4. I did not know it was you control a forest.
I feel like a lot of like mono red decks would be playing Invigorate. Or maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Mono white decks would for sure.
Wow, this is so interesting. There's a Blue Blast.
Which you cannot cast. So, yeah, Blood Moon doing quite the work here.
Wait, what makes this really interesting to me is just like, okay, I have a Blood Moon in play. You can't cast your spells. I even have a basic island. But I have to do something or I die.
Yeah, Brenden the game's not over, absolutely. The game is going to be over in about 8 turns one way or another, but yeah, Tom Ross going to just keep poking. 1 poison at a time.
That's actually wild to me that Invigorate is shut off by Blood Moon. That's crazy.
Yeah. You know what's a great shame, and this is an oversight on my part? We really should have Tom Ross infect like poison tokens in the kit for the feature match.
I agree. We punted. But we already fired the person who didn't have enough bird tokens for Sanofi Tugazi. So we're going to fire the replacement too? Like, we probably didn't train them appropriately.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the grip. There's a show and tell, force 1 of Blood Moon. So, yeah, Brenden is at 5 in fact. He's about to go to 6. So, yes, he can still win the game. Of course, we know that. But he had better find something real quick here. He's on a 4-turn clock.
Yep. So has the show and tell, just needs to find a monster to go with it.
Yeah, cantrip, obviously. That'll work too.
The question is, does Tom Ross get to do anything off of that show and tell? I believe that card tucked away in the back there is a Blighted Agent.
That'll work.
Speeds up the clock a little bit
Yeah.
anyway.
Hey, that'll do just fine. Let's see what he draws. Force.
That won't help.
This would be insane if Brenden loses this game.
I know. I love it. I love when turn 1 blowouts just aren't the blowouts you think they are.
Well, this is the card. This is the card that caused the cartwheel. So,
there we are.
It's a whammy.
What are you bringing to class, Tom? Because I'm bringing a demon.
It better be a Blighted Agent.
Yeah. Well, that's his only option, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he has to consider, like, do I want to hold the Blighted Agent for some reason? Because if it's Emrakul that comes down, but that's not a game you want to play.
Yeah, not at all.
Not a game you can play, for that matter.
Tom's in the tank now.
Yeah, Tom considering his options. Maybe he might actually just be considering, do I concede here? But I don't know what advantage you would gain by not showing Blighted Agent either.
Yeah. This is tough.
Yep, 3 mountains in play for Tom Ross. 7 spells, none of which are even close to being castable from 3 mountains. And
Tom's hand was really good to start, too. He has Glistener Elf and a Daze for backup. And that was no good. There's the agent. Noble.
I missed that guy. So the choice then was, do I want to put Blighted Agent in or a source of mana? And here we see the interaction between the Infect deck and Gristlebrand working out in Brendan's favor. Because Tom Ross has been pecking away for several turns, but Brendan's still at 20.
Yeah, that life doesn't matter.
More virtual 20.
This is not good. That's a Pyroclasm.
Well, not good for Tom.
Absolutely not good for Tom. That is bad news bears. There's a pedal.
And the world now Brendan's oyster.
Yeah, this is the driver's seat. Tom's going to draw his card, and this is just all a result of the Blood Moon. Wasn't sure how much we liked it on the draw, but obviously good enough. Brendan was able to put together the combo.
Yeah, I was pretty sure I liked it on the play.
I loved it on the play.
Yes. I was a little skeptical on the draw, but it definitely worked out here. Now, if Tom had led with Noble Hierarch rather than Glistener Elf,
We're looking at, I think he wins.
yes, very different game.
Yeah.
Although, well, he, the Noble Hierarch draws a force at that point, I think. But then the Blood Moon doesn't resolve through the days.
Okay,
right?
sure.
So
sure.
okay. So yes, game would have been completely different.
Yeah, I wonder how this game. I actually think. Well, okay, so it's interesting because do you think he's gonna force will the Noble Hierarch on turn 1? Like with your hand, do you force there?
Knowing the Blood Moon coming, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Because what good is Blood Moon? I mean, that was your plan, right? Like,
Sure.
what does your hand do if you don't cast Blood Moon on turn 1?
So I have to counter Noble Hierarch, and I try to cast Blood Moon, he gets dazed, then we're looking at a different game of Magic.
Yep. So, Brenden gonna lay a sneak attack. Put Emrakul into play. And go crashing in. So that was 22, once more.
Taylor Swift again? She always shows up, and I'm really glad she does. Unfortunately for Tom, she showed up again. Brenden Lutzi is going to win this match over Tom Ross, 2-0. I feel, and this is the second time I've watched this match, I feel like this is favor for Sneak and Show by a hair.
The sideboard helped a lot. We saw certainly any deck can win because both of these decks have very explosive draws in game 1.